Initiating moisture.
Welcome back to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Wonder Woman 1984. I actually really liked the original Wonder Woman and thought it was one of DCU's better movies, especially amid all the dog shit they were pumping out at the time. They even went on a little bit of a streak there because Aquaman also turned out to be decent. But with Wonder Woman 1984, I feel like they've gone right back to the dog shit diaper because it's not very good. I'm gonna go ahead and get the compliments out of the way right now because there's only a couple of them for this movie. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman continues to be exceptional in the role, and I think with the emotional scenes that she hits in this movie, she hits them even better than she ever has. I think she does a really great job with the character, and I think Pedro Pascal is an incredible villain. I think he's great. I'm also just a huge fan of his, and he does great in this role, and also the villain is pretty interesting with a cool gimmick. He's not just like some superpowered fucking meatball of a man that ends in a climactic boss battle where they're just like slapping each other around. It's actually a pretty interesting gimmick. That's really where my compliments end for this movie, because everything else about it I just think was a huge step back from the original. First of all, it's way too long. It's 2.5 hours, and it feels like it's 5 hours long. I felt like I was in some kind of fucking hyperbolic time chamber. It was miserably long for no reason. Past the initial opening action, there's 70 minutes where almost nothing happens except building characters slowly and uninterestingly. I'll get into that in a minute. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it is just a slog. It tries to cram a ton of fucking things in here for no reason, and they don't really mesh very well together. So the best part about the movie visually is the intro, when they're doing this Olympic Games event when Diana was a child. It looks great, it sounds great thanks to the score from Hans Zimmer, and it's probably the most interesting visual point of the film, although it doesn't really do anything. All of the Olympic Games that happen in the beginning, which is like 10 minutes worth, they don't play any fucking role in the movie at all except for one thing, where they say, hey Diana, honesty's good. That's really like the whole message is, being honest is pretty good. Felt like I was watching like some kind of fucking Teletubbies thing or like Boo-Bahs on Nick Jr. It was a really weird message to drive home, and especially to give it like a 10-minute Olympic Games thing just to say, hey, Diana, try honesty. It's just kind of silly. But visually, it's the best part of the movie because after that, the CGI and everything falls apart. It looks like shit half the time. Like when Diana's running, it looks like a malfunction in a video game cutscene. It looks like some Cyberpunk 2077 glitches. The CGI is rough. I'm not exaggerating. When she's running, it looks like she's floating, or like a poltergeist event. It looks like when Google tried to teach AI how to walk for the first time and it came up with like these weird fucking strides. It's weird. The CGI is really bad in a lot of points. And the first mall scene, like the first bit of action this movie really has, is terrible. It's like a cheesy 1960s Adam West Batman thing. I don't know if they were going for that vibe, but she stops this mall robbery where these like cartoonishly silly bad guys are like planning a heist and they get some shit, and then one of them gets caught, so he's dangling a girl over a ledge. He's gonna drop the girl because he doesn't want to go back to jail, as if somehow killing a child is gonna make him avoid jail time. I don't really get it. But then Wonder Woman saves the day, and it's the cheesiest shit of all time. It looks terrible. Everyone's like on wires and they're being like pushed and pulled around. It's not good at all. It reminded me of like a scene from Jingle All the Way, like Turbo Man coming to save the day. It was very dumb, and I definitely thought that was going to be the tone of the movie from there on, but it doesn't. It's not. It's really disjointed from everything else, because after that it's just a completely slowed down character piece where it's kind of just Diana and Kristen Wiig talking for a long time. And I don't think Kristen Wiig is a bad actress or anything, but she is not good in this movie. She's good at points in the movie, but her character, they really tried to build it and they were just unsuccessful. And also in the beginning, like the first 20 scenes with Kristen Wiig, she's wearing these glasses that are reflecting the green screen off her glasses. It was extremely distracting because every time you see Kristen Wiig in a scene, you see the green screen too. I honestly don't know how they missed that because it is glaring. It was like the only thing I could focus on when I saw Kristen Wiig. I'd like tune out everything else and I just focus on the fucking green screen in her glasses. It was wild how that stayed in the final cut here. And also surprising how few people seem to have noticed that. But again, it's not really a problem with Kristen Wiig's acting. I think she does fine in the role. It's just the character really wasn't given enough room to be interesting. Like, she has two scenes where she's like awkward and, I'm a nobody, but I want to be somebody. And then they introduce the plot device, which is a wishing stone. So, I wish I was somebody. Of course, the whole movie is the cliche, be careful what you wish for thing. So in the next scene, she's like super badass and a real powerful somebody. And it's just very silly. It goes like 3 scenes where she's awkward, and then she's immediately not awkward anymore. So it's not like they really built anything up, at least not successfully. I really don't even see why they included her in here, except for the fact that she becomes superpowered somebody. And I guess that's the only thing they wanted, so that way there could be like a potential showdown or something. I don't know why they wouldn't just focus on Pedro Pascal, because he's the actual like interesting villain of the movie. I just don't actually see what role Barbara Minerva played in this, the character played by Kristen Wiig, except for the fact that they wanted some kind of big showdown at the end, and you can't really do that with Pedro Pascal, just given how he is as a villain. It wouldn't work, and I think they wanted to have some kind of CGI showdown, which is weird because that's definitely the weakest part of the movie is their visuals. And to get around this in the final like fight scene, which is all CGI, they have it take place at night where you can hardly fucking see anything because it is absolutely atrocious. When the light does accidentally hit their CGI characters towards the end, man does it look bad. So I don't even know why they bothered to include the character in there. They could have just focused on the actual villain who is actually interesting, Pedro Pascal. They had 2.5 hours and it felt like they did nothing but wipe their ass with that time. I did enjoy the back and forth between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. I think they had good chemistry and I did like some of the more wholesome scenes. And it's not like the worst movie ever made, but it is actually just a significant step backwards since the first Wonder Woman in 2017. I don't know what happened or even what they were really going for in this movie, because it's super light on action and all of the action is much smaller. Like in Wonder Woman, you'd have like full fucking war fights. In Wonder Woman 1984, all of the fights happen in singular rooms. The first one happens in a small area of a mall. The next action scene happens on a small piece of a highway in the desert. The next action scene happens in a small room in a very notable building. And then the last one happens on a single ledge overlooking a small little puddle of water. So all of the action is significantly smaller and more contained. There's significantly less action. The pacing is pretty fucking garbage in this movie. The emotional scenes with characters aren't as explored as it was in 2017's Wonder Woman. Everything in Wonder Woman 1984 is worse than the original. It's really kind of inarguable. The only thing that is better is Gal Gadot's performance when it comes to those small emotional moments. I think she does a great job with her acting, and I do think Pedro Pascal does a great job with his character, but those are really the only two highlights of this movie. It's just not that good. So, plugging Wonder Woman 1984 into the moist meter, I'm giving it a 40%. It seems the DC headquarters has been hit with some kind of gas attack by the Joker that has turned them all back into the talentless creators they were in 2016 with shit like the Suicide Squad, because this movie is just not good. I thought they had finally started to find their footing with their movies when it came to like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam even. Like they had some good movies coming out of the pipeline, but something must have gone awry, because this one really just wasn't good. It's carried entirely by the performance of Gal Gadot and Pedro Pascal, and there's a few cool moments occasionally in the movie, but they're extremely rare and I can count them on one hand. It's not a good movie. That's about it. See ya.